Alright, today we're talking about multiple alleles. We've talked about codominance and complete dominance, complete dominance. If you understand those, this is kind of like a combination of codominance, if you will, and complete dominance. Let me say this very clearly. If you don't know the genotypes for the different types of blood, you will do poorly on this multiple allele quiz. You will fail it miserably. So, know the genotype, phenotype. I'll explain this. This is actually really cool because I am O positive. So basically, don't worry about the positive right now, it gets more complicated, but O positive. So basically that means that my parents could be either O, okay, both of them could be O, both of them could be heterozygous A, heterozygous for type B, and we'll explain this here in a second. So actually you can kind of tell from your blood type, if you're given blood, you can figure out what your parents' blood types could be, right? And figure it out backwards, correct? So, they say it's multiple alleles because what we've learned so far, we have two alleles. There's more than two alleles here. More two alleles involved. Alleles, remember, are a section of DNA that code for a protein that give you a trait. Alleles can be more than one gene. All right. So we're talking about multiple alleles. We're talking about multiple sections of DNA that code for our blood type. And that's actually what happens. So let me scroll down real quick. Now, if you're going to memorize anything, this is what I'm telling you to memorize, for sure. But if you do the practice problem, guess what? You'll have them memorized. Notice that this is IA, that's homozygous, if you will. This is heterozygous, IA, little I. Notice this is completely dominant over that, still type A blood. So you have two genotypes for one phenotype here. BB, okay? This can be a homozygous or heterozygous. This is the example of codominance right here, because these both are present. And then this is the recessive, type O. Now, I'll explain this very quickly. You do not have to understand this, but I will go through this kind of quickly with you. All right? Antigens are something, like when you see these antigens on this, antigens are things that are like sticking out of the cell, going, hey, I'm this type of cell. And then your immune system, what it does, it rolls around and it comes into contact with these cells, and it says, okay, you're cool. And if they find a foreign cell that doesn't have that antigen, attack, your immune system does. That's why it's bad news bears to give the wrong blood transfusion to the wrong person. Alright? So I am type O. Type O positive. Positive means there's something else we haven't learned. It's called the Rh factor. It's another antigen. We're not going to worry about that. So I'm Rh positive. The universal donor means I have an Rh antigen. Another bump here, if you will, is sticking on these type O's. There's two different types. So you can have A positive, B negative, AB positive, AB negative, O positive, O negative. I'm O positive. The universal donor is O negative because they have no antigens. They have no way, so there's no marker that's going to hit there. All right? So when I give blood, I try to give as much as I can because my blood can be received theoretically through AB positive, B positive, and A positive. I'm one thing away from being the universal donor. Yes?
So isn't O negative the universal receiver?
Negative. AB positive is universal receiver. Why? Because they have every antigen already possible. So no matter what type of blood you give them, theoretically, there should not be an immune response. Does it always happen? No. They still always mix it every time to make sure it's not going to have an effect. Good question. But now you can kind of understand logistically why. Because these antigens are basically proteins that are hanging off the cell. That kind of identify the cell. It's like a fingerprint of the cell. Now, if you didn't understand that, that's okay. I just wanted to explain that because I think that's cool. Alright? So, let's work a couple problems and we'll move on. So basically, if you have an offspring that was type O, you know it would be this. Okay? If it's type AB. So it says here, now if it's AB, you only have one type of genotype, right? Because there's only one type here. These are the easy problems. They tell you this and this. There's no other ones it could be. All right? I'm not going to do that. You should know how to do component squares from now on. All right? I'm not going to waste your time or my time. What I'm going to do is show you the start of this one. So if you want to, turn the page, and follow along here, because I'm going to do part of this for you. Alright? It'll help you out, maybe. Looking at the chart, what does type O have to be? Somebody just yell it out.
II,
Little I, right? That's the only genotype you can have for that phenotype. And his mother and father have type A and type B, respectively. So, there's two genotypes for this phenotype. Right, Paris? Give me them. Flip over. It's not cryptic. There you go. What do you think? Speak on it.
Type B is, it would be a big I, little I, or big I, B, bigger.
Okay. You said it, sort of. Yes, this you meant, right?
Sure.
Capital IB, capital IB, capital IB, little I. Good. Type A, the same thing. So that's type B. He could be this or this. We don't know yet. We got to figure it out. We good? So I'd be writing this down so I don't have to explain it to you again. I'm doing a problem for you. Part of it. He marries Susan, who is type B blood. Okay? And we know Susan can be this, or we don't know, and we'll never know. We'll never know with this information, this problem. We don't have enough info. So, alright. So think about this. Some of you guys will be able to see this in your head. Some of you will not. It's okay. Alright? It's just, I've done it long enough, I can see it. Some of you guys will be able to see it. Some of you guys will be able to see it. What must the mother and father, so this is Joe, they had a child, and Joe's their child. Okay? What must their genotypes be? Right? They have to be heterozygous. Watch. So I'm going to choose this one, I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to do my Punnett square the same way I've always done my Punnett square. That's a weird eye. What am I doing? Here. Right? And then so that one's done. And then here. And then here. Boom. Is this, can we see this? We'll see when I put it on the big screen.
Yeah,
Alright.
the screen's too small to turn.
And I'm sorry if this is real tiny for people that are watching at home, but if you wrote notes when you were here, you should be right. So this would be IA, IB, IB, I. Alright, so if they were this, then there's definitely a chance they can have Joe. Because they have a 1 in 4 chance of having a child that's type O. Okay? That's why their genotypes have to be this. The genotype of Joe, we already knows this. The genotype of the mother and father has to be this crossed with this. Has to be. So you're probably asking me, but Mr. Smith, what if, let's just throw another scenario there. What if it's this? And then maybe he or she, whatever, doesn't really matter, is this. Well, now some of you guys can see this already right now, that there's no way I can have a little I. Some of you guys may not be able to. That's okay. Keep working it. Is there any chance I could have a kid that has type O?
No.
No. And the only way it happens is they're both heterozygous. They're both different. What? We'll leave it there. Questions on this?